Hey guys, what's up? Dingocrikey here, and I wanted to throw out this video to give some of my thoughts on the recently released trailer for Machinima's Combiner Wars series. Now, I'll have the trailer linked in the description below. If you haven't seen it, you can go watch it yourself, and I would recommend watching the trailer before you listen to the rest of this commentary or read any comments so you can form your own opinions on it. Now, I'm just going to be straight up honest. At this point, I'm feeling very negatively about the Combiner Wars series. And you guys who have seen my previous videos know that I was always pretty optimistic about this show. The fact that it's not being done by a major animation studio, of course, has its cons, as in it's not as high budget, but maybe had pros, as in they can pursue certain storylines that the mainstream cartoons wouldn't be able to. And we of course always had that notion that, now we're going to be able to see a more mature Transformers cartoon finally, which I was always a little bit on the edge with, because sometimes when they try to do this with more kid-oriented material, it comes off as feeling hammy and like they're throwing in a lot of forced things, such as using the word kill a lot, showing a lot of violence, just trying to convince us it's more mature. But I tried to stay positive about it. After this trailer, man, this trailer was so bad. I mean, if some of you guys out there enjoy it, are really liking the looks of the series, more power to you. I hope you guys have fun with it, as it's going to be coming out anyways. Why not? I can't get behind the series at this point. I mean, maybe it'll end up being good, but the trailer itself was awful. Breaking it down, first we have the narration. The narration does not set the tone for this. If they're trying to make this a more serious, gritty storyline, this narration felt like it was parroting the series. It felt like the narrator did not take it seriously on any level. The tone of his voice is like the exact tone he has for the Honest trailers, and maybe that's affecting the way I perceive it to a certain extent. But I think it also has something to do with the way he enunciates every single part of the story. Like, the characters and the dialogue could have got it across themselves. They did not need this narrator over top of it. And plus, the script for the narration, like a lot of people are pointing out his use of the word biggest or bigger or whatever. This reminds me of something I would have done like when I was a kid making my Transformers videos, which were intended to be sort of parody-esque. I mean, what the heck, Machinima? Just sounds really corny, and it doesn't help that we have all of the words flashing on the screen. It felt like they were trying way too hard on one hand, and felt like they were almost making a joke of it on the other hand. But to be fair, the narration may have nothing to do with what the show is actually like. So unless John Bailey, as I believe he's the narrator in this, is going to be narrating the story throughout the show, it's probably not the best way to critique the actual content of the show. And even with the material we're given, such as the lines, the dialogue, maybe it will be different when we actually see it in context. But personally, I'm not even liking the sounds of the characters' voices at this point. Windblade is the main one who stands out as, once again, sounding really hammy, over the top with her lines. Like, what is she getting so angsty about? Like, way too serious. I mean, maybe that's just my perspective on Transformers. Generally, you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Bay's stuff, but I like Transformers to have a good amount of humor, sort of like a lot of Generation 1 episodes did. We've seen humor in Beast Wars. Even the new Robots in Disguise cartoon pulls it off pretty well. Maybe it's because I'm older. I don't always take the stories like super seriously. You can do dramatic things such as Beast Wars did, because you get really attached to those characters through the humor, through their experiences, such as Rat Trap and Dinobot. This series seems over the top with the serious tone. With that said, certain comic books, such as Last Stand of the Wreckers, I haven't reviewed it yet, but I think it does a very good job at having a story about giant alien robots that is still very serious overall, and I found it to be a successfully emotional story. Like, that's something I could recommend to even non-Transformers fans. I think it's that good. It sets up its world, it makes believable stakes within that world, and it really delivers on everything. Now, once again, this is just a trailer. Could the show end up being as great as something such as the Last Stand of the Wreckers series? I mean, I highly doubt it, but I guess it is a possibility. This one, though, seems like it's trying really hard to be very serious and does not sell it for me. I mean, maybe I'm just not into the whole combiners conflict. Maybe I don't know, still old school, where I just think, the combiners are just smaller Transformers, form a bigger one. and it's cool. But I guess in this story arc, they've basically become so powerful that they're causing massive destruction, and Windblade wants to stop that. I personally don't find that to be an interesting story, but I'm sure it could be executed well. This does not make it compelling at all. Just once again, with the dialogue, the voice acting for Windblade. Like I said, hammy, too over the top, and just not that great. It's kind of about how I felt about a lot of the voice acting, kind of going along with the narration. There were a few I liked. I did kind of like Menacer's voice. I know not everyone's crazy about it. I kind of enjoyed it, though. Optimus being voiced by John Bailey, I don't dislike as much as I feel like a lot of other people do. Without even knowing about this, I'd actually discussed in a recent video the idea of someone such as John Bailey eventually replacing Peter Cullen if it had to be the case due to Peter Cullen's age or something of the sort. And in my opinion, he does a decent G1 Optimus impersonation. Not a lot of people can pull off that voice great. I think he's okay. I think he could do a really good voice if he were to stray away from Peter Cullen's Optimus a little bit and make it his own voice so it wouldn't sound weird, kind of like I discussed in one of my previous Transformers 5 Q&As. So I'm not going to get into that too much here, but in summary on all of that, the tone of the series I'm not crazy about. I prefer a little bit more life and a little bit more fun to Transformers. That's just the way I see it. But I think even if you like the darker tone, I don't think they sell it great here. I mean, Last Stand of the Wreckers, I thought, did a really good darker tone to Transformers. Transformers Prime, in my opinion, could be a little melodramatic sometimes, but overall was a really good show. This trailer just does not sell it in my opinion. Now, speaking on the look, I'm not crazy about the look of the show. I know a lot of other people aren't. Personally, I give them leeway here though, because I'm sure they don't have the money and the large production teams of some of these other studios. If the animation looked as it did, but the voice acting and the narration, and don't even get me started on the music, were all better, then I'd be fine with it. That would be acceptable in my opinion. Now, as far as my opinions on the animation, I really don't like it. I probably prefer it to Energon and Cybertron's animation. Not sure if it's technically better, but I think I prefer it. Still, it looks stiff and lifeless to me, which, I mean, hey, considering they are giant robots, maybe you like that. Maybe you think that looks more realistic. I personally don't mind the exaggerations, even to the extent of Transformers Animated. Even if it's less believable, I like seeing more life in the characters, but I'm sure they didn't have the budget for something like that. Another thing I don't like that they may have been able to fix was the lighting. This is another thing that kind of goes along with the tone. It seems like they're trying to set up a darker tone, and just the lighting and the colors, once again, don't sell that feel. I think Beast Machines did a much better job of giving the show a darker look. Another thing I'm not crazy about is the world doesn't look beat up. It looks way too clean to give this a gritty portrayal of what this world should look like, this devastated Cybertron. Last Stand of the Wreckers, once again, did a really nice job at giving you that atmosphere. I mean, it's also a comic book, so they definitely have more leeway. They can make the sky look red on darker scenes. They can silhouette certain characters. But even in that department, I feel like they could have done a better job at using the visuals to sell the tone of the series. Anyways, there probably are a few more things I can comment on. Now, I have seen some of the character preludes. Don't like the Windblade one, have a lot of the same thoughts as I had about this trailer, but I did think the Optimus one was actually pretty decent, and made the conflict a little bit more compelling. But I'm going to wrap up all of my thoughts on this. Now, I suspect I could get a lot of dislikes on this video, but these are just my personal opinions. I'm not gonna lie and say it looks good when personally I don't think it does. I'm interested in hearing from people though who like the looks of the show. Maybe you like the darker tone of it, and heck, maybe you even really enjoyed the trailer itself. Once again, as much as I didn't like the looks of it, if you guys enjoy it, that's totally cool. We're gonna get it anyways. If it makes you happy, even if a lot of other people like me think it looks like crap, if you're excited about it, I hope you enjoy it for what it is. I just can't get into this personally. But who knows, maybe once we see the dialogue and the voices behind some context, can actually see the episodes, maybe it will turn out to be really, really great. As far as this trailer goes, it was awful in my opinion. Those are just my thoughts on it. You guys can, of course, as I said, leave yours in the comment section below, and if you want to keep up with the channel for more news on Transformers 5, the Machinima series, throwback figure reviews, you can, of course, check out the channel for all of that stuff, and that's all I have to say for now. Thanks a lot for watching, stay tuned, and have a good one, guys. I'll see you soon.